we're going to talk about some SolidWorks CAM tips and tricks. There's a lot of things that go through, but what I'm trying to do is kind of hit the heavy hitters and just trying to make everyone more efficient. Maybe wondering what maybe what some buttons are or and things like that of what you're doing and maybe what things affect if you do change certain things going forward. So with using SolidWorks CAM, everything that I'm going to tell you today, if remember SolidWorks CAM is powered by CamWorks, so the stuff I'm telling you for tips and tricks will follow suit for CAM Standard, and also I'll talk a little bit about SolidWorks CAM Pro, but then also some of the functionality I'm going to show you, of course, today will follow through on and CamWorks as well. Okay, let's get going here. So my first one here is where sometimes when you toggle in between when you turn your SolidWorks CAM on and off, remember SolidWorks CAM is an add-in. Okay, so when I go up to my SolidWorks CAM add-ins and I turn it on and off, or if you are a CamWorks user as well and you may toggle one off to use the other one, sometimes menus can they share the same kind of menus, the same menu, so you need to have SolidWorks CAM on and CamWorks off, and vice versa. So sometimes your utility manager, which is your command manager, can actually some of your buttons can show up missing and things like that. So there is a thing that's located where I'm showing you right here. It's a little utility executable that you can run, and it'll reset your buttons if you ever ran into that or anything. So that's where that is. So if you look it up in this location that you see here in orange, and it's executable, you double click on it and it'll run that cleanup utility. Okay. Keyboard shortcuts. I used to be a 2D user. I used to be a 2D user, so I'm a big keyboard shortcut person in SolidWorks and also in SolidWorks CAM. So I just want to show you that there's a lot of buttons you can do, and of course, like in SolidWorks and in SolidWorks CAM, you can do a lot of customizing. So keyboard shortcuts are a necessity to me to make me more efficient, and probably for a lot of you as well. So if you go into your right click up and go to customize inside your SolidWorks, you can go to your show commands, and you can then search in the filter, and you can then find certain things you're looking for. Like this one, I always hit Alt Q to post process. I don't have to go click a button to do that, so I can go to the post process to do that once I'm done doing my programming. The other one is I like keyboard shortcuts is the extract machinable features. I don't need to go and click on the button. I just do Alt E and it runs through the extract machinable features when I'm doing automatic feature recognition inside SolidWorks CAM. Okay. Access to technology database. You're in and out of there quite a bit usually. Maybe not every day, but you probably every day you probably are. But the other one for that is I use a lot of Alt settings that you can tell. So Alt D for me for database. D for database is what I use to access the technology database quick. Okay. Oh yeah, whoa, we gotta go back. Who's ran into this one? When they actually open up a part and your feature tree is narrow, right? And you're like, how do I do that? There is an API that has been written by John Milbury from SolidWorks. He's the SolidWorks CAM product manager. He has an API that I could share with anyone that wants one. So if you want us to send you that, let me know, or let Brian know, or shoot us an email, and I can send that off to whoever wants that API, and I can, show it has some instructions there how to load it. If you need any help, you can reach out too. But what happens is, if you can see I can't see when we have the SolidWorks CAM tree comes up, we're missing our SolidWorks CAM features. We can't see the operations and the tool tree. So when I want to, I don't like that, right? So there is a little API that you see right there. That's just kind of the icon that we have. We click on that, and it flies out our feature tree so where I can now see my CAM feature tree, operations, and tool tree. and everyone's happy about that, right? I kind of like that. So it's a nice little thing. And if I click it again, it'll toggle it back to the original width that it came in as. So it'll toggle it back and forth, whichever way you like. Okay. All right. Customize. When we get into customizing stuff, SOLIDWORKS Cam has a button that has cam options where we can customize it. We can 3 ways we can save these. We can save these to all possible settings that whatever that are applicable. We can do a system default. And we can also do the current document only. Okay. We get into that where you get to your options other than that little gear from the pull down. This is where you get to it other than the button where it has on the command manager, it has a little wrench and a screwdriver. Here's where you can get it. And if you look, my options are at Control A. That's my keyboard shortcut I set up. Okay. The next one is in options is open the NC editor. Okay. I want to open this NC editor when I go out to post process. So when I do generate my G code, I want my my NC editor to open so I can go in and search for tool changes. I can go and look at the G code. I can do back plotting, all that kind of fun stuff, and get peace of mind of what code I created. I want to go then in here. I can click that box, and then I don't have to click it on each time. It's on as a default option every time I run and I kick out to G code. Okay. The other one is, I hate to admit it, but none of us are getting younger, right? Or everybody's getting older every day. The UCS icon is nice size, right, for as a default, and this is in the cam side of stuff. So where your UCS icon is, you can actually, I doubled it. You can make it even bigger, but you can see it comes out as a 1 to that number is 1 in your options under display. I double it, so 2. I've seen some people at 2.5 or 3 or whatever, but I like to make that UCS a little bit larger. Kind of sticks out a little bit better. Okay. Oh, and below that too. Let's talk about this. Below that too, where you see line weight. Line weight, that's for your toolpath. I like a 3 or a 4. I used to like 3, but then now, like I'm saying, no one's getting any younger. I like 4 now, so it just makes that line a lot thicker of what my toolpaths are. Okay. All right. The next one is quickly display toolpath. This should be on by default, but if it's not, or you accidentally turned it off when you're clicking through these options, this button right here under display, you'll see that it says display toolpath for operation for the parameters. What that is if I click on any of my operations in my tree, it'll give me the statistics essentially of what that is, so I can quickly see what my toolpath is. I can quickly see what my rates are. I can actually see what my feeds and speeds are. Instead of me actually editing the operation and going inside there, I can click on that and I get that summary of information, which you see right there. Okay. The other one here is if you want to add a little more automation to what you're doing, you can actually in an update, you can click these 2 boxes so you don't have to, when you create features inside SOLIDWORKS Cam, it's completely up to you. Sometimes I do it if I'm going back and forth and I'm, instead of wanting to click generate operations and toolpaths each time, when I click these 2 boxes, when I create a feature, a cam feature, it will generate operation and a toolpath without even prompting me. Okay, so, but buyer beware, if you don't want it to do that, you don't want these checks, because it'll do it for you. You're like, I didn't want that. So just so you know, there's more automation there if you want it. Okay. The other one is saving some defaults. So we have the technology database. Okay. Inside the technology database, we'll get into this here in a little bit, where in the technology database, we can save common practices that we want. We can teach the TechDB to how we like the machine. But also there is a default where we can actually save operation parameters and then go and find it. So how to save default machining is we can go ahead and any of these buttons that we see up here in our parameters, it will remember the settings, everything except for the tool size I use or the tool I use. Okay, so if I like lead in, lead outs, I like certain depths of cut, things like that, all that stuff. I can save this out as whatever I want to create this as and name it whatever I want. And then I can prompt and then go find it. Maybe there's something I like, settings I like set up for on this 3-axis here on the Z level for the Z level. So there's settings that I like in all those parameters. Maybe it's a particular finish that I get. Maybe it's the speeds that I'm getting that I like. Then I can go ahead and save this and then go on prompt and find it and use it for that or at another time. Okay. Automatic feature recognition. This one should be used as much as you can where it makes sense for you. But what's nice about it is we can go ahead and automate the process as much as we can instead of picking pockets and holes and slots and perimeters. We can actually have SOLIDWORKS CAM do that for us and then go back and modify it if we don't like it or change anything that we want. Of course, we can do this on SOLIDWORKS files or any imported geometry as well. Okay, so when it says automatic feature recognition, if it's an imported geometry like a dumb solid, it's still going to go ahead and recognize the 3D geometry if it's a pocket or if it's a slot, those kind of things. It doesn't need to have a cut extrude that you would say like in the SOLIDWORKS type of lingo. Okay, it'll work. The other thing is we're going to get in here in a little bit is technology database. This is very powerful. People with the standard, you get this with your standard. So with your SOLIDWORKS CAM standard that you can start for 2.5 aspects milling for parts, you can actually start building a knowledge base inside there of how you like machining. Then down the road, if you upgrade to SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro or even CAMWorks, that TechDB can be used. You can go ahead and use that TechDB as your standard for the rest of the way out. So this is where we can recognize features based on rules and strategies you like to use based on your feeds and speeds you have set. This is where we keep our machine types. This is where we can create our own custom machines. This is where we can create our own tool cribs that we have. So in the machine that we have, and then also we can have strategies based on per machine as well in 2019 and then 2020 as well. Okay. So right here where we can, in 2019, they came out with this. Want to refresh and hit this if you haven't seen this or remember it. You can actually sports multiple machinings, machine strategies. So I can actually have strategies linked to my laser. If I have a laser, if I have a plasma cutter, I can actually have strategies that you see on the right there of how I want to cut certain things and what I have for settings based on per machine. Okay, so if I have a laser and then also a vertical mill, maybe I want different lead ins and lead outs for between the two for the different types of features. Okay. NC Editor, this is very powerful. This is powered by Simco. This comes with SOLIDWORKS CAM Standard, which is another big, huge benefit. In here, we can do backplot. We can search and find tool changes. We can also look at statistics. We can also do add spaces. We can add lines, all kinds of stuff in here. What else we can do is we can also backplot, and then actually it'll run through the G code and give us a sanity check to make sure that everything's working and it's kicking out G code the way that we want it to. Okay. So SOLIDWORKS CAM Standard comes with the features. It also comes with area clearance, Z level, and flat area. So, of course, area clearance is for roughing. Z level is like waterline cutting for 3-axis finishing. And then also it has flat area. What's new and what you'll find in there, and I'll show you where it's at, is also there is a combination cycle that's in there. So you can get some more control inside there. That's in 2019 Service Pack 4. Okay, so, and of course it'll be in 2020 as well. Okay. SOLIDWORKS CAM milling. Okay, so we're getting into some of this right here. This is involved in, if you see there, SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro. So the biggest thing, remember, SOLIDWORKS CAM Standard allows you to do 2.5 axis milling for parts. So we can do individual parts, and those tool paths and operations can live with that part. We get into SOLIDWORKS, even if you don't need the two axis turning, SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro is nice because we can actually use assembly machining and actually program parts with fixture setups and also machine setup that it's going to sit in. So then we can maybe machine one part and we can show the fixtures and we can tell it to void those fixtures, flip the part over. So we can take advantage of machine setup configurations in the assembly level, which is in SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro. Also, we can also apply toolpaths to individual SOLIDWORKS part configurations as well. So if we have a family of parts of 5, we can apply toolpaths to each one of those configurations. Okay. Also, if you're doing, I just mentioned that SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro has 2-axis turning other than the assembly machining, but also what you get with the 2-axis turning is you also get automatic feature recognition as well. So it'll recognize OD profiles, faces, grooves, all that kind of stuff, just like SOLIDWORKS CAM AFR for milling, but this is for turning. This is in SOLIDWORKS CAM Pro that you can take advantage of this as well. Okay. Okay. So here's, just want to kind of go over this, and if some aren't familiar, I know it's tips and tricks, so I just want to go over just to refresh everyone. So CAM standard is 2.5-axis for milling for parts. We get the premium where we get the area clearance and Z level and flat area. And then also remember now there's a combination cycle there in SOLIDWORKS 2019 Service Pack 4. We can also read tolerance-based machining and machine to the mean if we want to. We also can do automatic feature recognition, where it's over 20 different features it recognizes now. We have the technology database, which is a very knowledgeable database that has that information in there. And essentially you're working with the TechDB and it's learning how you like things and you're telling it how you would like the machine. You have toolpath simulation inside SOLIDWORKS CAM standard. So we can go ahead and run through and we can compare it to what the material is and what the target part is that we're machining. That also comes with the comes with the NC editor, and it also comes with a universal pulse generator. When you get into the Pro, you get the 2.5-axis assembly machining, 4 and 5-axis indexing, so 3+2 machining, tombstone, rotary, table, trunnion for indexing. You can go ahead and be able to use that. Also comes with high-speed machining, which SOLIDWORKS CAM calls value mill. That's available as well for 2.5-axis for parts. And then also you get turning. And remember, we get auto feature recognition with turning for 2-axis turning. Okay. All right. So let me talk about, get into here a little bit. Okay. So when we get in here, so where I was talking about earlier, notice when you open a part, okay, you're in SOLIDWORKS CAM here. And remember to turn on your SOLIDWORKS CAM. You go up here to add-ins. You can turn on SOLIDWORKS CAM, okay, and this will come up. And then what I like to do is, when we were talking about earlier, is notice how this is. Here's that API button. So if I want to, I click this, and it flies that out. So now I have access to my buttons here for SOLIDWORKS CAM. So this one here is my CAM feature tree. This is where we set up the machine. This is where we apply or recognize features and actually assign features. So faces, pockets, perimeters, holes here. And then from there, we generate operations and toolpaths, which is this menu here, this tree. So I go here, and then this is where I generate the operations, and then I can apply the toolpaths to these. And this last one here is my CAM tool tree, which you see here, right here. So in this CAM tree, and notice that you have blue and you have dark here, just like SOLIDWORKS sketching. When things are underdefined in a sketch, the attributes and entities of the sketch are blue until they are fully defined. The same thing here. If we're not using this tool, it's blue yet. Anything that's black here, it means we're using that tool. Okay. And now, if we want to quickly do a tool change, so if there's something, since we're in here, another tip is, say if I really want to use a different size, like this flat end mill, I want to change. I actually want to grab this contour and drag it into here. I can quickly do that, and it already reran my toolpath. What I don't get is a preview if I actually edit it and do that, but I can quickly drop and drag whatever I'm looking for to do here. I'll go back and drag. I'll just left click and drag this right back into there, and notice it updated my toolpath for me already. Here's a doubled size icon that I was talking about earlier. So this, if I go up here, my cam options, and notice where my cam options are. Normally they're way down here on the end, right? If you don't know, they're usually down here on the end. What I do is bring them, because I use them so often. Notice I have them here as well. So I usually customize, and I'll go under commands, and I'll go to SOLIDWORKS cam. Okay, and here is my cam options, and I just left click and drag that thing, drop it right there. Same thing there. I can take this one and drop it right in there, wherever you want to put it. Okay, to do that. So because you're in there quite often. So getting into the options, I was talking about earlier. This is where you can change your scale factor under display and your UCS icon here. So I'm going to change this back to 1 just to show you. Okay, I'll click this back down. We'll click on this. Oops, go here. And I'll click here. Notice here's the size at 1. I'll go back here and change this to 2 again. Okay, and we'll see. There's 2. I can see that a little better. I don't know about everyone else, so I think everybody agrees. Okay. So then getting back into these options that we were talking about earlier, is under your general tab. Here's where you can turn off disable auto saving. If you're already using SOLIDWORKS autosave in your options, in your system options, and you're already using autosave, you could probably I would recommend turning this off and just using that one. Okay. Here's down here where if we make changes to these tabs, any one of these tabs, this is where I can say system default, active document, or all possible if it's applicable, whatever I changed. Okay. Here's my mail features. This is where I can turn on certain extract machinable features. Like if I did have a larger part that has many holes in it, I may just want to have it recognize holes first and just turn these off, do auto feature recognition just for holes. Okay. And then maybe when I'm done with holes, I want to do non-holes. And I can just turn on non-holes and let it find non-holes for me and so on. Okay. With having all of these on, sometimes what you run into is it'll find a face or a perimeter to each setup that it finds holes for too. So I have these all on. So you're like, oh, I found another. So just so you're aware that sometimes that may happen. So sometimes I like to control these, but I usually leave them on and go ahead and let it find what it can find and kind of go from there and manipulate it. Here's where your hole recognition size is. Anything in here larger than this will be recognized as a non-hole and will be applied as a mill operation. Okay. Also, let's talk about this real quick. Minimum included angle. This is like the size of a feature, like a pocket or anything circular. Anything minimum angle, this you could set at 270. So anything that is over 270, you would maybe consider certain things that way. Okay. These I usually have checked on. I kind of had them off just to have them off right here, just to show you. I usually have them on always when I first start out a part. Depends on what my part is. Then also too, if I'm doing a perimeter, remember here under your perimeter options, you have open pocket and boss type. If you have open pocket, it's going to mill all of the material away of the perimeter. This boss type for the perimeter will actually mill around the profile and do the profile of the part, which is usually probably what you want. Not always, but it depends on what it is you're doing. Okay. Your display, everything in SOLIDWORKS, of course, is in SOLIDWORKS CAM. It's completely customizable. Some people that are used to CamWorks, they change these colors and make them the way you're used to. It's completely up to you what you want to do. This is where we're talking about the origin of UCS size and also this line weight of your toolpaths. And the other thing in here is, this is where that I was talking about earlier, where that display the tooltip was. That's where, if I click on one of these, that's where this tooltip is right here. Okay. That setting, again, is under display, and it's usually clicked by default when you install, but just so you know, it's right there. Okay. And then when you do previews of things, collapse operation dialog box on preview, that's where if you're doing a preview of something, it'll roll up your dialog box. If you don't want it to, you can uncheck it and it'll just leave your full size preview dialog box open if you wanted to. Okay. And then here's some simulation settings that you can do. You can go ahead and set tool mode. You can go ahead and turn up the resolution if you want to, and your comparison between your material and also your target, what you're trying to machine. You can dial that up if you want to get a little bit better view. Also, you can do some advanced rendering in there. Then also here, when you get into using 4-axis and 4-axis indexing, if you want the tool to rotate or you want the stock to rotate when you're doing simulation, remember this is not simultaneous. This is just the rotating of, like, say if it's in a you got it in a lathe or you got it in a rotary table and you're rotating the part, you can tell in the motion control in your simulation, you can rotate the tool or you can rotate the stock, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to show. Okay. Then as far as update goes, on here, this is where I was talking about earlier, where if you want to generate, when I create a feature inside SOLIDWORKS CAM, so if I create a pocket, it'll run my features right away. It'll run my features, it'll run my operations and toolpaths automatically, just generate them all. So if I had all my buttons clicked here and I was going to do this part from scratch, and I didn't have any of this stuff in here, and I have this clicked, I would click this button and it would go ahead and find all the features, run all the operations, run all the toolpaths for me until it's done, and then I could then go view it. Versus if I don't have this, I can generate features, and then I need to prompt myself to click on generate operations, and then for operations I can do toolpaths and simulate. Okay. And file locations, this is the last one I want to talk about, is, remember, this is where I can turn on to open up the G code that you see right there. Do that. Okay. And let me talk about this here real quick. When I want to, if I go here and I edit any one of these, remember I can either left double click or right click on this to edit a feature. Inside here, inside here, if people are changing lead in and lead outs, okay, if you got something linked to here, this applies lead into all of. So if I had combined operations together and I want certain lead and lead outs for all of them, I only have one pick here, but if I had them linked together, that's where this applies. A lot of people ask that, is like, well, what's this for? If I say lead in, lead in, and that this is just for this specific pocket, the circular pocket. But if we link them together and we want them to use the same settings, then we could say, I want the lead in and lead out to be the same. And if there's multiple ones here, I could say apply to all of those. Okay. And then here's where your optimize is. So if I get these settings the way that I like them, I was talking about saving defaults. This is where you can save defaults right here. Remember, it doesn't remember the tool, okay, but it does remember all of your settings. I can do a save as, name it whatever I want, click OK. And then when I'm in here for a contour mill, when I want to create from here, I'm going to go ahead and do another contour just to do one. And then right here, here's the tool I picked. I could change the tool, whatever I want to do. But this is where I can go find my defaults right here where I save. I can say, no, I want to do whatever I save it out as. I can then grab that right from here. That's where I could pick. That's where I'm saving my defaults to. I can access them right there. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is when we get into the tree here, what I like to do is I always like to say you work left to right, just like you read. So you have defined machine, you have, this is added, I put this in here, but you have defined machine, stock, coordinate system, and setup. It's kind of the same thing here. I have machine, stock, and coordinate. So I'm going here and then kind of going down. As a common setting or as a default setting, your coordinate system and stock are kind of like this up here. So they don't follow the same order. So I always like to tell people make these kind of the same order, the same kind of flow, and it's a little less confusing for you. So now notice now I have defined machine, which is here. I have stock, which is here. I have coordinate system, then setup. Okay. All right. Something like that. Okay. Let me grab this one real quick. So I was talking about a little earlier about items, okay? So what we can do here is I can go and actually go here and I want to show you where that combination cycle is. Okay. So we go to Zero. Here's a combination cycle that was added right down here. Okay. So I can check that on. I can go ahead and use the combination cycle, get some better finish out of the Z level ability here. Okay. And actually get a little more control and get a little more availability out of that in your SOLIDWORKS CAM standard. It's in there now. Okay. That's where that is. And then so some additional functionality they added there. Okay. Other stuff I could keep talking about is I think I will open it up real quick. I'm kind of at 33 minutes, so I could keep going on. So I'll just go ahead and if Brian's there, I will kind of open it up if there's any questions, of course. There's so much to talk about, but I just want to give you the heads up of everything that we're kind of showing you. And then that hopefully makes you more efficient. If you got questions, for sure, let us know.